pray that things don't go as bad as they're being projected. But when you talk about a Category 4 hurricane coming directly to you, there's nothing you can do about it but pray for the best.
Yes, so charge up everything. Make sure that you have your cell phones charged and so that you can send text message out, and you can also have your apps on your phone so you'll know about the weather and all of those things. Be
No
prepared.
doubt. No doubt. So, Ronline, they say that laughing is a good cure for the soul and the body. Would you agree with that?
Yes, it has helped me through many disasters. I can definitely say that. I can definitely say that.
Well, I'll say this, that the more you laugh, the better off you are.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. So, with that said, Earl, I wanted to just start out to let you know that I did compliment our topic for today with the Black History acknowledgement that I will be giving later. And as you would agree, once you know who this person is, they have contributed a lot to our laughter, which is very much needed, especially now with all of these storms and things like that. So, thank you for bringing this forward to us today.
Well, we're definitely looking at having something better to do. Uh, and with that laughter, we always want to make sure that it is something that definitely is a medical relief. So I ask you, who's the first comedian that you remember that made an impression on you?
The first comedian, I want to say Red Fox when I was watching Sanford and Son. I didn't realize what comedy was until that. And then it just spinned off from there. Of course, Eddie Murphy and a few more others that came aboard that, that was within my age great group. And just went on from there.
Yes. There were a few comedians that I recall growing up that brought some joy and laughter. And one in particular was, for those of us who remember Sanford and Son, that TV show, and the great comedian Red Fox. Before you got a chance to see a lot of comedians on movies or TV, they only would, if you didn't see them live, you would buy their albums. Albums were probably the first way that you got a chance to see them in or hear them really. So
Mhm.
Red Fox had a series, not one album, not two albums, but he had a series of albums, and it was called Laugh of the Party.
Oh, laugh at a party. Okay.
Laugh of the Party. And as we know, Red Fox's real name is his last name is Sanford. So the show Sanford was really his last name,
Hmm.
but his stage name was Red Fox. So I used to listen to Red Fox albums when I would come home from junior high school.
Wow. So I know some things wasn't allowed in our home. So to hear that one coming in, just actually made it into the house.
And the fact that Red Fox was one of those comedians that would give you a joke and then give you a punchline. And because some of his jokes were so over the top of your head, or you may not catch it right away, he would really pause and let you think
Catch
about it
up.
and
Yes.
catch up with it. And some of his material was just so simple. I mean, it was not a long monologue with some of the things, but some of it was so simple and to the point that it would just have you laughing and cracking up. And one of the things I recall him saying was, um, "What would you get if you followed a ugly child home?
Oh, what would you get?
You would get two ugly parents." You would get two ugly parents.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be some of the things that would he would say and make light of in his jokes and on his album. So it was real, quick and not a whole lot to, I guess, think about, because it was just so impactful what he would say. But from him, the next comedian, and I think he probably was as funny, if not funnier than Red Fox, was Bill Cosby.
Mm-hmm.
And even to this day, I think Bill Cosby's first monologue that he put on an album to this day is probably one of the most classic monologues, hands down, compared to anybody that you will ever hear. And it was titled Right, or as he would say it, draw it out, right.
Right.
But it was based on the conversation with God and Noah building the ark.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he broke it down into three segments of this one monologue. So you had uh, Noah, who was a carpenter, being approached by God out of nowhere. You just hear his voice. And of course, like most of us would do, we would think that, you start looking around, your eyes start moving around, like, who is that? What is that? And you question what you really hear. And then when someone tells you it's the Lord, Noah, you go like, right,
Right.
right. Yeah, okay. So that part started off, and the Lord told him what he wanted him to do and why he was doing it. And they got through that part. And then the next part was Noah physically building the ark, and his neighbor coming over to his house and asking him, "What are you building?" And Noah says, "I can't tell you." I can't tell you. Oh, so his neighbor's like, "Come on, give me a hint, something, man. You got this big old block of wood out here in the driveway." So you have to think about what he said. In the driveway, he's built this big ark, right?
Right.
So you could give me a hint. So Noah goes like, "You want a hint? How long can you tread water?"
Mm.
So like, oh, okay. So then after that, Noah has gone out and collected all these animals, and as he's putting them in the ark, of course, who comes back to him to talk to him? And now Noah is frustrated. So when God comes back and says no, he's like, "What? What do you want?" He's like, "What do you want now?" So he's telling him, "Look, man, you got to take one of those elephants back. You got two males. You got to take one of them back and get a female." Noah tells him, "Man, you change one of them. I'm not taking nothing back.
You got change one, huh?
You change one of them." So
Mm.
he's expressing his frustration, and he's just going on and on and on. And all of a sudden, you hear the thunder in the background. And then you start hearing the rain. And Noah gets concerned. He's like, "What is this? Is this is this a drizzle?" So he goes, "So it's me and you, right, Lord?" And the Lord goes, "Right."
Right.
So that's a short version of it, but that monologue at the time he had that album, and that was his first album, and that was the title of it, was Right.
Mm.
I could not get enough of hearing that, because that was the funniest thing. I mean, he had some other things on there. So from there, he had a couple more albums, and I think what really pushed him to the forefront was when he came out with the kids in his neighborhood when he lived in Philadelphia, and the one kid that we all got to know and became synonymous in cartoons and animated features, and even became a movie later on with Kenan Thompson, was his character's Fat Albert. And I
Mhm.
think that character launched Bill Cosby to a whole nother light. But uh, for those of for those people who do not know, Bill Cosby started off in a drama TV show called I Spy
Mhm.
with Robert Cole. So you had back in the mid '60s a black and white uh, like CIA team. They would go on missions and things like that. And that's where I first saw Bill Cosby on TV. And from there, he had uh, a comedy show. He had a variety show, another comedy show. All this before the TV show we got to know, the Cosby Show with the Huckster. He had
Mhm.
he had done a lot of things before he got to that TV show. So for those of us who know about Bill Cosby's career, and of course he did a couple of movies too. One of them was a great comedy movie with Sidney Poitier. Uh, Let's Do It Again and Uptown Saturday Night. So Bill Cosby, as brilliant as he was in the things he did, his comedy was even more brilliant um, when he went into comedy because he would talk about life things. He would not be derogatory and use all the vulgar language. He would talk about things that we all could relate to about life in our families. And you could not help but laugh because we all could relate to the things he was saying, you know? And
Mhm.
it's like, when you're growing up and your mother says, I'm sick and tired of telling you to do this, and I'm sick and tired of telling. So it is that he was saying one time his mother was talking, I'm sick, and she paused and he went, I am tired. And or this other one where when he went out in the neighborhood, I guess the first, how when you move to a new neighborhood and you're a new kid, you try to make friends with everybody, and everybody's a little skeptical. So he's out making friends in the neighborhood, and the kids ask him what his name is, and he says Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of that. Your name's not no Jesus Christ. Stop it, man. He's talking about, yes, it is. No, so they go through this long debate. So he invites him home. I'll prove it to you. So imagine you taking about 40 kids to your house, right? To
Mhm.
prove this one point. So he takes all these kids to the house, and when he opens the door, his father is there. And what does his father say? Jesus Christ. Because every time he wanted him to do, he did something. Jesus Christ, what? So uh, Cosby was quite the comedian in his early years, and for all the things he did for entertainment and for his philanthropic things that he did. I don't think we've had a better person to do the things he's done, regardless of his uh, episodes later on in life. So, but back to the comedy.
Mhm.
When we talk about comedy, you see these stand-up comedies, and you go out and you see the kings of comedy with Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer and D.L. Hughley, and of course the one, the only Bernie Mac.
Mhm.
We get a great sense of it, and now today we have comedian extraordinaire Kevin Hart.
Mhm.
But when we look at the movies that have been made, and some of them have been blockbusters, and they've been around for a while. Uh, I I put together two lists. One from the Oprah Daily website that gave the top. I only did 15 of them. I wasn't gonna go through the whole list. 15, and then I put together my own compared to what they have. But I want you to think about uh, the movies, the comedy movies that have made you just laugh until you're in tears, or you just, or when you think about them, or when you see them again on TV or repeat, you know some of the lines. And who were the comedians slash actors who made those movies what they are. So I'm gonna let you go first before I go into my list because I'm just curious to hear who were some of the names and movies that really resonate with you.
Okay, so lately my husband and I, we've been um, going through like the actors that have passed, and of course Harlem Nights. There are a
Ah,
lot of actors that have
ah,
passed.
yes.
And to go back and just look at the talent that you saw there and who is still living today, and what they're doing and that kind of thing, that just does it for me. The next one, when they did um, the spinoff of Coming to America,
Mm-hmm.
made me go back and look at that. And then, of course, what Eddie Murphy, and to put in Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, in their movies that they've done. So it's like looking at that entertainment world or how it is evolved. And the person that I'll be talking about later on today has done. You talked about Mr. Cosby. Um, we probably wouldn't have known this person if it wasn't for um, what Mr. Cosby has done through his work. He's given so many actors and actresses chances through the work that he's done. And I'm just sorry that whatever was going on in the background of his life, isn't something that we can really say, that we can be proud of, but his work that he has done to be able to give so many entertainers what we know today, I thank him for his contributions because he had a vision.
And like so many of the actors and actresses who have had many movies or been a part of the entertainment world for so long, and they bring other people along with them. And of course, when you spoke of Harlem Nights, that movie had 4 or 5 comedians in it that
Mm-hmm.
really stood out. And if we just go by movies, uh, not so much comedy movies, but just movies, I was able to look at the fact that Eddie Murphy has done 21 movies.
Yes, and we were just watching him not too long ago in the movie Life, and
Ah, yeah, another
another,
another
yes.
one of the acclaimed great comedy movies that Eddie Murphy has been a
Hmm.
part of. So you got Harlem Nights and you got Life. I mean, those 2 films alone set Eddie Murphy in a position of 2 of the funniest movies you ever want to see.
Hmm.
2 of the
Hmm.
funniest movies you ever want to see. And of course, when you throw in the third one that everyone's familiar with, that probably has been seen more than those two, Coming to America,
Hmm.
where he and Arsenio Hall played 3 or 4 people in that movie.
Hmm.
Eddie Murphy plays the prince. Eddie Murphy plays the singer. Eddie Murphy plays the Jewish guy that's in the barbershop. And then Arsenio Hall plays the minister. He plays one of the barbers. He plays Eddie Murphy's valet, the prince's valet. So, and doing those movies where you have to play multiple roles takes a lot.
Yes.
Now, Richard Pryor did a
Hmm.
movie called Which Way Is Up,
It's up, right?
where he played 3 roles in that movie. So not only is that something that requires a lot of talent, but it requires a lot of time because you can only film so much before you have to, you film one part doing one thing, and then the editors are the people who make it seem like, it's all working at the same time.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
21 movies to his credit, Eddie Murphy, a comedian that we all grew up with from Saturday Night Live, from being Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood to being Buckwheat, from
Yes.
being Gumby, from being Velvet Jones, from doing his little take on being James Brown.
Mhm.
Eddie Murphy is quite a talented performer. Comedian first, movie star second. And
And
I
then
think,
one of my sisters, when she was talking about Eddie Murphy once, she said, and then Eddie Murphy had a nerve to take it to the children's level,
yes,
bringing. And so, and I
yes,
say, yeah, I say,
yes,
so did I say, now remember, Bill Cosby did the same thing, so it's like bringing all of that content to where all ages can enjoy it.
right, right. So
Mhm.
Eddie put out the movie that was a spinoff. And I want everyone to think about this. And I want you to think about this too. So when he made the movie The Nutty Professor, do you recall who was the original Nutty Professor?
No.
So I want everyone to just, you got to think about some of these things because, just like with music, some people do a song that someone else did, and the person that comes behind them and redoes it makes it more popular than the original artist.
Hmm.
And when I think about that, of course, the Isley brothers have been the best at that ever. But the first movie, The Nutty Professor, was done by a comedian. Was done by a comedian, and he did several comedy movies. His sidekick partner was Dean Martin. Does that help tell you who the Nutty Professor was?
No, I do remember Dean Martin, but I don't remember who. No.
When I said, you're gonna be like, oh yeah.
Okay.
So the name Jerry Lewis doesn't ring a bell.
Oh my. No, not for the Nutty Professor. What I
That's who
know. Okay, go ahead.
that's who the Nutty Professor was in the original Nutty Professor movie.
Hmm.
Jerry Lewis was the Nutty Professor.
Wow. Okay. And my thing that I've known Jerry Lewis for was the for his philanthropic efforts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Way before that,
Okay.
him and Dean Martin, they used to be like uh, Peel and Key.
Okay.
They were a duo. Now, Dean Martin wasn't so much a funny guy; he was a straight guy. But you got Jerry Lewis, and Jerry Lewis with all the antics embodied in him, you know. But the first Nutty Professor movie was done by Jerry Lewis.
Hmm.
Okay, Jerry Lewis. So you take a Jerry Lewis movie, and I'm wondering, did Eddie go to Jerry and get his blessings to do that movie?
I don't know, but he did a great job.
He did,
Yes, he
because
did.
of course that movie, the base of that movie centers around a scientist who comes up with a formula to transform him into a real cool guy.
Hmm.
And that's what happened with Jerry Lewis. He went from this kind of a nerd guy to this real suave guy. And that's what the Nutty Professor was all about, how a chemical potion mixture caused somebody to go from A to Z. So
Now that reminds me of Urkel.
Urkel, yeah, I
Mhm.
can see the relationship with
Urkel
Urkel.
and Stefan, yes. Urkel
Urkel and
and Stefan.
Stefan, right?
Hmm.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So Eddie Murphy does this Nutty Professor, but then he does the first one, and then he does a couple of more, and he goes from the Nutty Professor to the Clumps and to something else, and then you know he's got three of them, and then all of a sudden he comes out with another crazy movie called Norbit, and he plays the male and the female
Hmm.
in Norbit. So
Yeah, that was a lot of hard work. I'm
that's a
telling
lot
you,
of work.
that's a lot of work.
That's a
And if
lot of
you've
work.
ever participated in any kind of stage plays or whatever to get in and out those costumes in a timely manner,
Yes,
and
yes,
people having to make put the makeup on you and change everything about you, and so you could come back out there, and then you got to remember your lines. You got to stay in character.
stay in character or stay in characters.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
so when you look at some of Eddie Murphy's work, where he's had to be two to three different people in a movie,
Oh, and
that's some
Earl,
work.
I must say this. Thank God for extras. Thank God
Absolutely, absolutely,
they make that
absolutely.
scene so seamlessly. You don't know what's going on
You don't
by
you
the
don't
time.
know. You
Right, and
don't
if
know.
you want to look at that on film, to look at how effortlessly that looks, it's like no, that was a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. That's a lot of
Stage
work.
set. Hmm.
And when they say, action and then cut, take one, take two, take 23,
Yes,
action. It's like, God, because here's the thing. When you think about doing that in a movie and how many times you might have to redo that in a movie because as they say, man, you wasting film. Because they're rolling all of imagine being on the set of In Living Color with the Wayans, with the Winans. Imagine being on the set in on the TV show In Living Color when they first, the first couple of seasons with them. Can you imagine what it was like on the set of that show?
yes, and a lot of laughter going on. And somebody's, I could talk about my mother in church. My mother was making, she was dead serious about what she said, but what she said, I'm sitting right there next to her, and I'm like, I'm supposed to have a straight face, but I am laughing, and I say, you know what? Let me get up.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
go sit. Let me go sit
right,
next to my husband, because
right,
it's yeah, changing sets, and you coming up on conversations or whatever, and it's like, now wait a minute, now I wish that had not heard what you said, because you
right,
can't unhear once you heard it, so
right,
it's
right.
like you might laugh or whatever, and they say cut again, let's redo this or whatever, and at some point it gets tiresome to have to redoing the same thing over again.
So you can imagine what it's like to be on In Living Color. You can imagine how many takes they had to do when they used to do the Martin show,
Yes,
especially when he went into his different characters.
yes,
Shanae, you
yes.
know, Jerome,
Jerome.
okay, Otis, the
Oh,
security
yes,
guard,
yes.
when he used to be the little boy, with the
Hmm.
runny nose,
Yes,
okay. That's four characters right there that you got to be in character when you do those characters. And he did a great job of that. I mean, his his comedy uh brilliance is showed in was shown in his shows because when he would do those I mean, Shanae, oh my goodness. But
mm.
I used to love doing when he used to be Jerome Romy Rome.
Yeah.
So we've seen these comedians grow up right in front of us, from the on stage live when they used to have the shows where they would bring all these comedians on and bring them to us and show them to us and things of that nature, to them spinning from that to TV shows to movies. So Eddie Murphy did 21 movies. Which Ice Cube was not a comedian. He was a hip hop artist, but he's got 15 movie credits. Kevin Hart's got 12. Richard Pryor's got 12. Martin Lawrence got 11. Bill Cosby has 7. Bernie Mac 4, Chris Tucker 3, based on what I found. But when we look at the list, and before I go into the list, hey, this is the Kitchings table. I want to thank everyone for joining us here today. Our topic today is comic relief. We're talking about comedy movies and comedians who made them and what our thoughts and viewpoints of them are. And you can think about some of these movies and think about what's your favorite comedy movie and just, you know, put one of them on and watch one of them and just sit there and laugh, because the more you watch them, the more you know the lines backwards and forward and when they're coming in. And I think everybody, if you watch Coming to America enough, you know those lines pretty well. Pretty well. If you watch Harlem Nights, you know those lines pretty well. If you watch Life, uh, and I think where Bernie Mac was jingling, jingling. I
Jingling,
mean,
jingling, yeah.
you just think of some of the things that they created, jingling, jingling, and it's just so much comedy. So when I looked up all-time black comedy movies on the Oprah Daily page to see where she had this list, or whoever did this list. At number 15, they had Diary of a Mad Black Woman. And Ronnie, before I get into the list, probably the most renowned entertainer that we have, black entertainer that we have in this day and time, is Tyler Perry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone could deny that.
No.
For a guy who started his career path on stage doing plays with one character, Mud Deer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we as black people, Mud Deer is not a big problem. But for other cultures, when you see it spelled, you be like, what is Muddy? It's like, no, man, that's
Mm-hmm.
Mud Deer.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mud Deer is basically mother deer.
Yes, 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 yes.
that's that's what it really is. But we created our own version of mother deer and mud deer.
Mm-hmm.
So at 15, you had Diary of a Black Woman, a Mad Black Woman. 14, you had Soul Plane. I didn't really like Soul Plane a whole lot. It
No.
was okay. The Johnson Family Vacation with Steve Martin and Cedric the Entertainer. Yeah, it was pretty good. At 12, you had the White Chicks with the two youngest Wayans brothers, Sean, and Sean is he's just too much over the top for me. He's too animated for me, for my taste.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but when they had In Living Color, Keenan put his whole family to work, and that
Yes.
has grown from my brothers and sisters to now it's my brothers, my sisters, my nieces and nephews. That family has grown that business
Mm-hmm.
to be very large. And Damon is coming back with another TV show this fall or soon.
Okay.
And I think of all the Wayans, he's the funniest of them all. And when he used to do Men on Vacation, when he got into character being that particular person, he loved doing that. I think he loved doing that person more so than he did anybody else, because
Mm-hmm.
he could just really be what he probably wasn't, but the way he portrayed it was just funny beyond belief.
Mm.
So at number 11, we had Deliver Us from Evil. That was a movie with LL Cool J. Number 10, Barbershop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Barbershop with Ice Cube and Cedric the Entertainer. At number 9, they had Life. Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence. At number 8, they had Baps. I don't even know how Baps got on the list.
Well, it was funny. It was pretty funny. I think after the third time or whatever, I really started just really paying attention to the punchlines.
Okay. Well,
Mhm.
it didn't make my list, so I'm like Baps. Nah. At number 7, we had the Nutty Professor, Eddie Murphy. Number 6, you had Friday. Ice Cube spun off two more versions of that movie, Friday After Next and Next Friday. We're waiting on the final one, the final Friday, and I hope he gets that one out soon because that series was real funny. Between, I think we all thought that once Chris Tucker wasn't in the movie anymore, who would he replace Chris Tucker with? But you would have to go to a movie he did with Mike Epps in All About the Benjamins to know that he and Mike Epps, played opposite each other and they had a real good relationship. So it just made sense for Mike Epps to replace Chris Tucker in the next two Fridays. So then we got Bad Boys with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. So Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. Doesn't get much better than that.
Mhm.
And here
Mhm.
again, Will Smith, a former singing artist, hip hop artist, becomes an actor. White Men Can't Jump.
Yeah, that
I
was
don't know. I don't know if I would have made it number 4 though. I mean, it wasn't funnier than Friday, in my opinion. It's not funnier than Friday. I'm sorry.
Yeah, now when I saw it on the list, I'm wondering, I'm like, somebody must have forgotten.
I was like, no, man, it wasn't funnier than Friday. It definitely wasn't funnier than Life. Come on.
Mhm.
But that's where they put it. At number 3, House Party. Again, Martin Lawrence is in House Party with Kid and Play.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
At number 2, Harlem Nights.
Mhm.
Harlem Nights. Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Red Fox, Robin Harris.
Renato Ray and Charlie
Yeah,
Murphy.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Arsenio Hall.
Arsenio Hall, right.
That was the group. And you had Della Reese in there. Now,
Right.
so do you remember the young lady in that movie who Richard Pryor was dating, who his girlfriend was? Do you remember who she was?
Oh my, I'm gonna kick myself.
I'll give you her name, and I still dare you to come up with who it is. Her name was Belinda Tolbert.
Mm-mm.
Doesn't ring any bells, right? And when I
Right.
saw her in the movie, it's like I don't get who that is. I mean, okay, y'all cast her in the movie, but who is he? Who is she? I mean, okay. And then it hit. You know who Belinda Talbert is?
Who?
Lionel Jefferson's girlfriend
Well, who is Lionel Jefferson?
from the TV show The Jeffersons. Jenny,
Oh, okay.
the Willises,
Yes.
their
Okay.
daughter.
Okay, and that's another comedy that I had forgotten about, the Jeffersons and
Oh,
yeah.
the,
Hmm.
the, the we're just on the movies. We're not even talking about the TV shows, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that
yeah.
that TV show was cutting edge because some of the things they allowed to be said in that movie, in that TV show rather. But she was Lionel Jefferson's girlfriend. She was the daughter of the Willises in the TV show The Jeffersons. That's
Okay.
Belinda Tolbert, who
Wow.
played in Harlem Nights. That was Eddie Murphy's girlfriend. And um, what's the young lady's name who played in the TV show A Different World? Whitney.
Whitney, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was in Harlem Nights, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
So you had all of that. You had all of that. I
There
mean, and
was
it was
so much talent. I mean, you
so
had
much.
to be somebody to get into Harlem Nights. I'm trying to tell you.
Hey, you had to be because
Mhm.
Thomas Michael Ford was in there.
Mhm.
He was in there. So Arsenio Hall thought Eddie Murphy killed his brother.
Mhm.
So anyway, but Harlem Nights, a great one. And then of course, Coming to America at
America.
number 1.
Mhm.
So Coming to America came out in 88. Harlem Nights came out in 89. Imagine all the things Eddie Murphy went through to make those two movies within that period, that time period.
Right, starting with Saturday Night Live. And if I'm correct, before Saturday Night Live, is this when the Wayans Brothers came out with In Living Color?
No, they came out at Saturday Night Live is celebrating 50 years.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so the Wayans came out. In Living Color came out in what, the 80s,
I was thinking it was either the 80s or maybe the late
the early
70s.
90s. No, the Living Color show. No,
Okay, yeah,
no.
I'm trying to think when I first saw them because it seemed like I was so it had to be early 80s then because I was living at home at that time. And
Okay.
yeah, and it was so refreshing to see them on set. So so I had to be early 80s then before I left.
Yeah, well, that in itself, but the talent in Coming to America again. Arsenio Hall is in another movie with Eddie Murphy. They playing all these roles. They are basically it for the comedy part. You got John Amos, James Earl Jones.
And
That
I'm
was
so
another movie
sorry
that had it.
about I'm so sorry about our loss of John Amos because
Yes,
yes. Hmm.
yes, yeah, McDowell's. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, but Eddie Murphy has made many movies, comedy, and like you said, the children's movies where he's done Doctor Doolittle and Daddy Daycare, and he's just a very extraordinary talent,
Hmm.
very extraordinary talent. So compared to that list from Oprah, my top five were Coming to America, Harlem Nights, Friday Life, and Barbershop.
Okay. Those are top five. Okay.
That's my top five. That's my
Hmm.
top five. Now, think about these two movies Eddie Murphy also played in Trading Places and Beverly Hills Cops.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with the Beverly Hills Cops. I mean, that kept me going through my time of learning, figuring out what life was, and like, oh, I'm not enjoying this part.
Hey, Ronline, let me give you another Eddie Murphy with Martin Lawrence, Boomerang.
Boomerang, right?
So you
Hmm.
got Martin Lawrence, Eddie Murphy, David Allen Greer, Chris Rock,
Hmm.
Eartha Kitt, Halle
Hmm.
Berry, Robin Givens,
All of that talent.
all of that talent making a movie.
Hmm.
Come on. Here's some classics. Car Wash.
Okay, that is a
Car
classic.
Wash, right?
Hmm.
That's a classic. That's a
Hmm.
musical comedy.
Right.
That's a musical comedy. And so you got Richard Pryor, Franklin Ajay, uh, Bill Dukes, the Pointer Sisters. You got them. And then the movie Let's Do It Again with Sidney Poitier and Bill Cosby, with the Staple Singers singing the song Let's Do It Again. And that was about scamming folks for the second time. So we've had a lot of great black comedy movies since 1988, even before, because Richard Pryor came out with some movies with Gene Wilder, that Silver Streak, and another one. So Pryor was on that path way early. So that's our list of comic relief today. I'm gonna turn it over to you, Ron Lee, for your Black History moment.
All right. Well, thank you so much for bringing that in because for me, it was Sinbad. His name is David Atkins. For those that didn't know that, and oh man, just to know that he went into military. He was in the Air Force, and once I guess once you get past basic training and start getting settled into your job or what you're doing in the military, he used to go downtown and started his comedy in the downtown areas where he was. And so, as we just talked about today, what's happening, they transition into the acting world, and have Sinbad has done some amazing things through Bill Cosby's what he's done with the work with Bill Cosby with the different world, and um, what was the other one? So he made some appearances on other movies as well, and then he went into his own shows, of Sinbad, and so he managed to just keep us laughing, And then I posted here where he did get a blockbuster. He earned a blockbuster award in 1997, favorite supporting actor in the film called Jingle All the Way. And in 1998, he won the NAACP Image Award for Sinbad Summer Jam. And we're sorry that his life was interrupted when he had a stroke back in 2020. That illness, and what my understanding is that we can expect for him to put on another show for us, the way that he does it in the future. So he made that announcement on social media back in March of 2024. So I turn this back over to you, Earl. Thank you again for allowing that comment relief, because as you said, laughter, will help you through a lot of ailments, a lot of things in life. And we have to learn how to laugh, because there's so many things that, takes our laughter away. So depression has hit us like no other in this day and time. So illnesses, and with that pandemic and things like that, Earl, we have lost so many people.
You're correct. And I would be remiss if I didn't make uh, known some of the female comedians of our time. And first and foremost, the female comedian that probably all black female comedians stand on the shoulders of, and that would be Jackie Moms Mabley.
Yes.
So between her and uh, some of the other ladies who've become comedians,
Wanda
Shaw
Page.
Underwood,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, um, Monique, these
Mm.
ladies have made their marks in the comedy world, and kudos to them too. Not many of them have had the movie success that the men have had, but still, they've made their marks. I would have never thought that Sinbad's real name was David Atkins. Didn't really know, but of course, with the name Sinbad, I mean that's an interesting stage name to come up with, because Sinbad was a character from a movie that dealt with Aladdin.
Okay, yeah, Sinbad the
Aladdin,
Sailor, maybe, because
Sinbad
that's
the
what,
Sailor, yeah.
yeah, because
That's
that's where he said he took it from.
yeah. So why he came up with Sinbad, I don't know, but it worked. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to him, and we look forward to him recovering and getting back on stage. I know he's going to talk about himself and his stroke like nobody else could. So we await that. Well, Ronline, that's going to do it for us today on the Kitchens Table for Comic Relief. We hope everybody's enjoyed it. We hope that we brought some humor to you today and brought some things out that the list of movies make you think about wanting to watch a comedy movie. So for my co-host, Ronline Cannady, I'm W. Earl Kitchings. And until next time, as we always say, do something good for somebody else today. Take care, everybody.
Goodbye.